We are on the record. This is the digital video deposition of Dr. Michael Riley, testifying in the matter of Raylene Stokes versus County of Orange et al. In the Superior Court of the State of California, County of Orange, case number 30-2010-003-51398. This deposition is being held at 402 North Nevada Street, Oceanside, California. Today is Monday, October 29th, 2012. The time is now 10:09 a.m. My name is Greg Eisman, Legal Video Specialist with Jordan Media Incorporated, 1228 Madison Avenue in San Diego, California. The certified shorthand reporter today is Maggie Smith, in association with Crom Court Reporting, San Diego, California. All counsel will now state their appearances for the record.
John McMillan appearing for plaintiffs.
Pat Desmond appearing for the County of Orange, the deponent Dr. Riley, and the other social workers that have been sued in this lawsuit.
Would the reporter please swear the witness?
If you would, Doctor, please raise your right hand to be administered the oath. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury, the testimony you give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Riley, can you please state and spell your full name, including your middle name, for us?
Sure. Michael Levon, L-A, capital V-O-N, Riley, R-I-L-E-Y.
Okay, Mr. Riley, what position do you currently hold with the County of Orange?
I am the Director of Social Services Agency of Orange County.
And as Director of the entire agency, you oversee all departments, correct?
Yes, I do all 4 departments and approximately 4,000 employees.
Okay, I'm going to show you what we'll mark as exhibit number 133 to your deposition. Have you had a moment to review that exhibit number 133?
Yes, I have.
It says in the upper right-hand corner that as of July 10th, 2012, that was a current organizational chart, correct?
Yes.
Is that still current?
There have been some changes since that time.
Okay, can you do me a favor, and I will hand you one of my pens, actually my only pen,
Okay.
and ask you if you would to go ahead and interlineate the changes.
Sure. It's just been one change, and Nancy Davis in the CalWorks program has retired.
Okay. And she was replaced.
She was Deputy Director for our CalWorks program under Nathan Nishimoto.
Okay. And she has been replaced, correct?
She has not been replaced.
So it's an
It's
open.
vacant right now. They're interviewing probably as we speak.
Just so that I'm clear, and I'll give this back to you. I have a copy for myself, thanks. Just so that I'm clear as to the organization of the agency, it looks like there are 4 basic departments, correct?
Yes,
And one of those departments is Children and Family Services, correct?
that's correct.
And the division director is Gary Taylor?
That's right.
Okay. If you could, I was looking at one of the documents you brought with you here today, and it's titled County of Orange Social Services Agency Program Mandates and Best Practices. I want to make sure I read this correctly. But am I correct that the funding for your programs, 13% of it is devoted to Children and Family Services?
Of the, you mean a SSA total budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And approximately 90% of that budget comes from federal and state funding, correct?
That's correct.
How much is that?
It's vague as to time.
Well, how much was it this year?
I'm not certain as far as, because there's several funding sources that flow to our CFS budget. There is child welfare services budget. There is a foster care budget, which primarily covers which is under Title 4E, which covers actually group home placement and foster care placement, which that money flows through us out to the providers. The Child Welfare Services Program is the one that pays for our overhead for our social workers. And that's usually somewhere around 85 million, somewhere around in there, roughly. I'm not certain offhand. And then we also have monies coming in for Adoption Services Program, which is different, and our AB 12, which is just passed this year, which is for our emancipated youth to carry them through the age of 21. So there's several funding sources that flow into CFS.
Let's start with the Social Services Agency total budget for 2012. What was that total budget?
The total budget for operating budget is about $875 million.
Is there some other kind of budget besides the operating budget?
Yes, our total budget is about $2.2 billion. That includes public assistance payments for Medi-Cal and CalFresh.
Okay. And just so that I'm clear, County of Orange Social Services Agency total budget for 2012 was $2.2 billion, correct?
About that.
And of that $2.2 billion, approximately 13% of that went to Children and Family Services, correct?
Actually, 13% would come from the operating budget, which is not the total, because that 2.2 billion, that's on top of the operating budget, and that flows primarily through our public assistance programs. Some of that would be foster care, because some of that is supporting foster parents and relative caregivers, but I don't have the exact breakout for that.
So am I correct that in this program mandates and best practices document that you produced here today for 2012, when you're talking about the funding being 13% of the total funding for County of Orange Social Services Agency, are we talking about it being 13% of the operating budget or 13% of the total budget?
13% of the operating budget.
Okay. Can you show me where on this document it says that?
Relax Foundation.
It doesn't say that here.
Okay. That is a document you produced here with you for your deposition today, correct? That's a yes?
Yes.
Did you review that document before you came to give your deposition here today?
Yes, I did.
Did you participate in any way in preparing that document?
Not in preparing the document, no, I didn't. I reviewed it, but I didn't prepare it.
You reviewed it for accuracy before it was finalized, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you found it to be accurate?
Yes, I did. However, I did not see that 13% as the total budget. I was just looking at it as operating budget.
And another thing you'd said a little earlier is that the total budget, that $2.2 billion number, was on top of the $875 million operating budget. Did you mean that it's in addition to, so we aggregate the two numbers?
It's you aggregate the two numbers, so you would separate out the 878 million from that $2.2 billion, subtract that from that. That's all inclusive. Total of 2.2 billion, including the operating budget.
Okay. Okay, so if we pull out the 875 million from the 2.2 billion, whatever's left would be that portion of the total budget that is not devoted to Children and Family Services.
That's correct.
Okay. So am I correct that roughly 40% of your total budget goes to Children and Family Services?
That misstates the evidence.
Well, what's 875, or yeah, 2.2 billion divided by 875 million.
That's the total operating budget for SSA, not for Children and Family Services, $875 million
Okay, the 875 million that
is the total SSA operating budget,
Okay.
which covers our overhead and facilities and maintenance and day-to-day expenses for the most part.
So where does the other 1.4 billion go?
The other goes to we are a flow-through, it goes to our citizens for Medi-Cal, CalFresh, in-home supportive services, refugee services.
So that would be the, if I were to number on Exhibit 133, in fact, let's just go ahead and do that. If you can number 1 through 4, the different divisions.
Okay. Number 1 is Administrative Division. Number 2 is Adult Services and Assistance Programs. That's where we have, again, most of our Medi-Cal programs and CalFresh programs. CalFresh, by the way, is the new name for
Yeah,
food
for the
stamps.
food stamps, I saw
California, yeah.
that. Got to do some rebranding.
Right. And then Division 3 is Children and Family Services, and Division 4 is Family Self-Sufficiency, which houses CalWorks and Welfare to Work programs.
Now, administrative services,
Yes.
that's a basic overhead function, right? That's
That's
essentially
correct.
that's essentially what you have in place to keep all the programs
Correct.
managed and running.
Right.
Okay. One thing you have to do is try to wait for me to finish the question because
I'm
she's trying to
sorry.
write down everything you say. And then adult services, that's a separate program where you're essentially, or the county is essentially providing services to adults who need help, right?
Yes.
And the administrative services division, some of those people actually provide the logistical support and infrastructure to manage that program, correct?
Yes.
And it's the same with regard to CalWorks Family Self-Sufficiency.
Yes.
So the administrative services provide the infrastructure and logistical support to operate the Family Self-Sufficiency division.
Yes.
And it's also the same with regard to children and family services, correct?
Yes.
That is that the administrative services division provides logistical support and infrastructure to operate the children and family services unit.
Yes.
How does the administrative services division divide, or rather derive, its operating budget?
It derives its operating budget for what we call cost applies. For example, for the services that they may, an HR staff person who's, say, working with adult assistance programs, who's working on some personnel issue, that cost is cost applied to the adult services program, which has a completely different funding source. So therefore, any services or support they provide to these other 3 divisions is cost applied to these other 3 divisions' budget.
Okay, and by they you mean the administrative services staff, right?
Yes.
So to the extent that the administrative services division provides either logistical support, staff, or infrastructure support to one of these other divisions, there will be a charge somewhere against that division.
Right. With the exception perhaps of our IT, because we have with our IT, our information technology division, or section I should say, oftentimes we'll get a separate funding stream for them as well to support all of our networks,
Okay,
which are cloud networks.
okay. And is that separate funding source also included in your total budget, which was for this year 2.2 billion?
Yes, it's included in all of that.
Okay. Now, if we focus just for a moment on children and family services, does it also have its own internal infrastructure, or does it use the infrastructure provided by administrative services?
It uses, for clarification purposes, we are one department. SSA is one department. These are divisions of that department. So the primary infrastructure for all of our divisions is provided by the Administration Services Division.
Okay. And then for budgeting purposes, the Administrative Service Division will keep track of which department is using which resources, and then there will be like a